17th Amendment balanced budget. Can you just kind of explain to me what that is as a bill, what you're trying to accomplish, and where it's at in the process?
It's basically to try to form a constitutional convention that would then only deal with the balanced budget. Congress doesn't seem to be able, doesn't make any difference who's in control, if Republicans or Democrats. They all know that money gets votes. Nobody seems to want to balance the budget. So we're thinking that maybe if we had a constitutional convention and an amendment that would force the federal government to actually run on a balanced budget. I mean, just admit this is how much money you need and take it rather than running up the debt like they've been doing now. And, you know, the scary part is we're at 19 trillion and we're at, you know, a quarter, 1% interest. If it goes to 4 or 5, the amount that'll take out of the cash flow of what's available to run the rest of the government, it'll be phenomenal. You know, I remember when it hit $1 trillion the first time, but then interest rates were, you know, 4 or 5%. Now they're way lower.
And if I'm not mistaken, 2/3 of the states would have to ratify this or put out some sort of a alert that they were on board in order for this to happen. And then the next step would be what?
2/3, you're right. 2/3 of the states have to agree to call for a constitutional convention. And then those states would have to send delegates. And then at that constitutional convention, it takes 2/3 of all the delegates then to actually pass an amendment to the Constitution. And they're hoping that the real structure, what they're hoping now is if enough states go for the balanced budget agreement, then they will the Congress will actually say, hey, we better do something before we turn it all loose to all the states, and then maybe they'll do a balanced budget. But it's surprising when you look at it how many states have balanced budget amendments that are deep in the hole. California has a balanced budget. They're never close. They use funny numbers to get there, and that's the beauty of Idaho. At least we've stuck to the balanced budget in our budget, that we'll do holdbacks, and we're not inflating numbers and stuff like that and then claim a balanced budget.
After the first constitutional convention that we all know about, have we ever had one of these before?
Not that I know of, no. I don't think I can't remember. And that's the other side of the issue. People are saying, well, what if you get a runaway constitutional convention where they start dealing with all kinds of other issues? And we've talked about that. If we send our delegates down there, they will be bound by they can only vote on one issue. They can't vote on another one. And if they try that, then they get yanked and have to come back home. So that's kind of the security part of what they're hoping for as far as the balanced budget constitutional convention.
But would you trust Ohio and California and Wyoming to make those same?
Several states have already talked about putting that in there, and several states have put something similar to that already in it, to the point where I don't think they would get 2/3 would be able to stay there, so to speak. So I'm comfortable enough that there's enough states that have said, yeah, that's just going to be a single issue. But I understand there's a fair number of people, even in Idaho, that are not comfortable with that aspect, thinking that and I don't know where they think it'll all end up. But the thing is even if they go into for me anyhow, if they go into other topics, they still need 2/3 of the people they sent there to change to make an amendment to the Constitution.
We were just talking a little bit about separations of powers. Is there any concern that you'd have in regards to taking this power away from the Congress? I mean, I know we sometimes get a little frustrated with their lack of movement on things, but I mean that is kind of their job in the Constitution. Are you concerned at all about taking the power away from them?
No, because I don't think that they have properly administered the power they have, which is to control what they're spending. I mean, it's become obvious when we start spending $3 trillion a year, more than what we have coming in. They would rather develop programs and spend money that they don't have. And, I've told people, I says, I'm not spending my kids' money, I'm spending my great-grandkids' money now. We've already spent all of my money and my kids' money. And so I think somebody has to start putting some restraints on it. I mean, it's really great if you come up with this great program, everybody likes the program, well, then pay for it. And Congress has passed resolutions, well, from now on, we're only going to vote for this unless we have, and make sure we have the money to spend on it, but it never happens.
This is still a pretty heavy lift. It's a long way to go. A lot of states have to sign on to this.
It's still I want to say there's 28 states. I'm not positive on the number, so it'll still be a heavy lift to get to 2/3 of the states that are calling for it. Some states have called for it and then pulled it back, and now I think they're going in the process of calling for it again. And Idaho's supposed to be one of the most conservative states. It should be one of the easy ones to actually call for something like this, but it's still a push-pull over here yet too.
So where are we in the process? I mean, it sounds like we've got a draft bill. Like, do we have sponsors? Are people on board? Does this look like it's going to get a hearing? What should we expect with this?
We had one before, and there were sponsors on that one. I'm not sure if we got the same list of sponsors on it this next time around or not. So we'll be drafting. I think we'll be drafting one pretty quick again, and try to run that out there and see what kind of support we get. It'll have to go through probably State Affairs. And so my guess is that's the committee that will hear it. And so, yeah, you got to kind of gauge, you got people on both sides of the issue there, just like I talked about before, good, strong conservatives that don't want to, go to a constitutional convention because they have concerns about that. And so, yeah, it'll still be a push-pull to get it through.
If you were one prone to making a wager, what do you think the odds are on this going anywhere this year?
Oh, I would probably give it 55-45. 55 that it'll go through and 45 that it won't. I think we have enough to get it through, but I don't think we have a big margin that we can pull it through. But I voted against the horse racing, so I guess I'm not a gambling guy.
Anything else you want to add on that you think people should know?
No, that'd be fine.